All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Head in the Clouds from us at Go Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson, and I am the Chief Operating Officer here. I'm joined by Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO, and Alonzo Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer. And in the background, we've got Tyrone over there in Cape Town, South Africa. He is running things behind the scenes for us. So again, I want to welcome everybody to what is normally Head in the Clouds. But this week, we decided we wanted to give another opportunity for Q&A session. We had such a great turnout yesterday with Mike doing it all by himself because I was under the weather. Alonzo had state testing for his kid. Oh, man. Sorry about that, Alonzo. But we have a lot. So Mike had such a great time yesterday, and there were so many great questions yesterday. We thought there might be more questions that we could answer. So we decided to take that opportunity and be here for some more questions. So as I said, my name's Chris Johnson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. So I want to lay the groundwork for everybody. You know, the team on this call, on this stream, between the three of us, we've got nearly 75 years of experience, and we're here to help you. And we want to help you build your best technology career. So we've got Mike, our founder, as I mentioned. He's been in tech for over 25 years. Sorry, Mike. I know. The more I say that, the worse it feels. He's been in tech for over 25 years. He's held elite architect positions, such as network architect, enterprise architect, cloud architect, and so on. And he's also mentored countless individuals, guided countless individuals, helped so many people reach the career of their dreams. So not only does he have that technical expertise, but he also has the ability to coach and develop individuals. We've got Alonzo. He's our Chief Marketing Officer. He's an expert on marketing, branding, strategy, and leadership. He's got 30 years of marketing experience. Man, the more I say these, the worse I feel. With major global organizations, 30 years of marketing experience with major.
I don't know where it went.
And he's also led major cloud projects. What he does is he helps our students build that elite brand that makes the world come to them. So, and then there's me. I've got nearly 15 years of HR experience. Trust me, I feel it may not be 25, it may not be 30, but I just had my birthday last week, and I kid you not, as soon as that birthday hit, my back started going out, and I don't know what happened, but me, Mike, and we're trying to figure that one out. But I've got 15 years of HR and corporate leadership experience that I bring to the table here to help you guys and gals as well. We're here to help you. We all hold MBAs. We've all got the skills from our extensive careers. We're here to help you. We're not just get hired, but have that amazing long-term career success that you desire. So we're here for your questions. I want to remind you, we are not easy to get a hold of. Mike alone costs $1,200 per hour to speak to, and there's at least an 18-week waiting period to speak to him. Me and Alonzo, we're running around like madmen sometimes, trying to keep up with Mike, just keeping up with Mike. But we're here right now to answer your questions. So take advantage of that. Put your questions about cloud computing careers, cloud architect career, cloud architect training, cloud engineer careers, cloud engineer training. I don't know what cloud is. I'm new. I hear it's great. What is it? Perfect. Great question. Bring it to us. We're here to answer those questions. We want to help you. And the best way we can do that is by answering questions. Other than training you in our development programs, the best way we can help you is by answering your questions. So before I ask Mike and Alonzo to say a few words, I do have some things I need to tell you guys about. So, every week we've got our How to Become the Ultimate Cloud Architect webinar. We will be doing that again this week, Thursday, at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure to register for that. That's a free resource, just like this. The only difference is you can talk to us live. You can come on screen. It's going to be in our webinar platform, not here on YouTube. So you don't have to stick to just the chat box. You can come on and talk to us off of mute and ask us questions, have a real conversation with us. That'll be this Thursday at 1 p.m. Make sure to take advantage of that. Register for that. Tyrone's got that link there in the chat box for you. Also, something new and exciting that we've decided that we're going to bring to you guys. We've got a Cloud Architect Challenge that we're going to do. And we're going to do this next Tuesday night in place of Head in the Clouds. Right now, next week, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, May 2nd, we're going to do a Cloud Architect Challenge. What is a Cloud Architect Challenge? We give you a business case and you get to design a solution. Can you do it? Do you have what it takes to be a cloud architect? Come give it a shot on the Cloud Architect Challenge with us live in person. Well, not in person, but live in the box. And it'll be great. It will be so much fun. So make sure to take advantage of that. That is another free opportunity for you. So make sure to register for that. Tyrone put that in the chat box as well. We've got so many other things. And I'm not going to ask Tyrone to put them in the chat box because there's just so many of them. We've got we have a how to get hired every time interview guide. That link is in the description. We have our how to change careers to a tech career from a seemingly unrelated career. We've got that guide in the description for you as well. We've got the how to get your first cloud architect job guide that goes hand in hand with the webinar that we like to do on Thursdays. That guide is available for you in the resources as well. Today, we released our BGP, Border Gateway Protocol guide for everybody for free. That can currently be found on LinkedIn. And so that brings me to my next thing. Make sure you're following Mike on LinkedIn. Because guess what? When we have new things, the first place it's going to be is on LinkedIn. So make sure you're following Mike on LinkedIn. If you click on that link in the chat box, it will take you to Mike's profile. What's going to be the first thing on Mike's profile? The how to get your BGP resource guide. So make sure to take advantage of all that's out there for you. We got countless things. I could keep talking, but I'm going to get to Mike, get to Alonzo, and then we'll get to your questions. So, gentlemen, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
All right. So who wants to share some wisdom before we get to the question?
We're going to jump in. I guess we will save that for the crux of the overall program. But overall, I'm looking at everyone from all over the place, from Texas, Florida, Romania, tons of other places that I've always wanted to visit but have yet to be there. But you are taking the time to get your questions answered from us, and we are so thankful for that. So I am ready to strap in, answer your questions, get involved. Please step up, get involved. Don't be shy. Let's get you going to your best cloud career, your best career ever. And it all starts with one question. So let's fire away. Over to you, Mike.
Okay, and welcome everyone. Tonight we're going to answer any questions you have about building the ultimate career. You want to be a cloud architect? Wonderful. That's our area of expertise. We can tell you exactly what you need to learn to get hired. Want to be a cloud engineer? I can tell you how to do that too, though I wouldn't advise it right now, and we can talk about it if you guys are interested in that. Want to become a network engineer, network architect, enterprise architect? We can help you with that as well. I've now spent more than 2.5 decades in tech and well over 2 decades helping people get their first tech job. And I'm going to tell you right now, you can get any one of these jobs you want with the right preparation and zero experience. I do it every single day, but you've got to train correctly. Certification will prepare you for nothing. I wish that wasn't the case, but all it does is it gives you what's called vendor brainwashing. I'm AWS, and I want to teach you all about my stuff, so you're going to recommend my AWS stuff if it's right or it's wrong. Azure does the same thing. Google does the same thing. That's the basis of certification. But with the right preparation, the right knowledge, and the right abilities, you can do anything. There's no hard and fast rules. And I'll give you lots of examples throughout the day. But the key is knowing the job, becoming great at the job, having such a good brand that the world comes to you, and then poof, you're hired. And then outperform your competition, which is nothing to do if you know the right things, which we can talk about, and then you're promoted. And that's the story of how I became a principal architect in less than 2 years with zero experience or degrees in tech. Now, I was really good at practicing medicine. That's what I went to school for. lots of internal medicine, but I've helped countless people. And every day I've got someone that got hired. This week it was 4 people so far that were hired. None of them had come from the tech background, I don't believe either. And they're all got their first cloud architect jobs, and you can too. So here's the key. First, believe in yourself. Secondly, find a mentor, someone that knows the world, not somebody that's brand new, someone that's been out there for a long period of time that's made it to the top. And that way, they can keep you from making the mistakes that others make on the way to the top. That's how I became principal architect in 2 years. Other people weren't there in 15 years. Others never reached it in 20 years. Others retired and never got there. But I asked the experts, what do you want in the perfect architect? They told me. I became everything they told me. They were VPs and directors and other executives that said, this is what I want. I became what they wanted, and poof, there's there. And you can all do it, every last one of you. So please ask us your questions. We'll guide you exactly how to get there. That's my favorite thing, is when you guys get cloud hired, regardless of what the job is. So please, believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you're never going to get there. But you can do anything you've dreamed of, anything you desired. All you have to do is start and build the right plan and keep going until you win. So ask us your questions and we'll get you there.
All right. Tyrone, you got any questions for us? There we go. Paul Priest says, doesn't have to be first. Well, it's first, Paul. But curious on thoughts on Terraform versus, I'm going to butcher these, Pulumi versus TF or AWS CDK.
Okay, so Paul, I'm an architect. And as an architect, we will never touch the technology. We're not even allowed to. We design, present, and sell. But infrastructure as code, huge, huge, huge. And as we think about it, everyone is multi-cloud. There's nobody that just uses AWS. And if they did, they'd be insane, because a single cloud is a single point of failure, and nobody does it. In fact, Paul, 98% of organizations right now use more than one cloud. And that number is going up because the cloud is not cheaper. I don't know who made that lie or propagated that lie. I can save you money going to the cloud. The cloud is more agile. In many cases, the cloud is much more expensive, but it's more agile. The cloud is also not more secure. It's less secure, and we can tell you why. More secure than a dilapidated data center. Yeah, that's true, but not as secure as what you can build on your own. But the cloud is so agile, and agility in business is everything. If you can move your business faster than your competition, you win. You earn more, the stock price goes up, the shareholders are happy, and the CEO did their job. Likewise, the business is not agile. Marketing and economic conditions change, and they can't accommodate to meet the change, and poof, they're bankrupt and they're competition. I love Bed Bath & Beyond. I got to tell you, it was like my favorite store ever. I used to go there with my wife. Anytime I'd take my wife there, she'd be happy, which would put me in the happy house versus the dog house. She loved it. I loved it. And I like to cook, so I used to go there. Unfortunately, Bed Bath & Beyond could not adapt as fast as other businesses like Amazon. And sadly, they just closed. So it's all about agility in business. Now, when it comes to deploying things rapidly with business, realistically speaking, you're going to use infrastructure as code. And realistically, the only tool that's viable in today's world is actually Terraform. Everybody uses Terraform. AWS CloudFormation, trash. Azure's got their own scripting language, trash, because everybody is multi-cloud. Terraform is everywhere. So you're going to use a Nutanix cloud, which you're going to see lots of. Again, Terraform. You're going to use an IBM OpenStack cloud because they bought Red Hat. Terraform. AWS, Azure, Google, Terraform, Oracle, Terraform. So if you're going to be in the engineering space, you're going to need to know infrastructure as code. Architects, we don't touch the tech. Infrastructure as code is not our world, not an stretch of the imagination. For architects, no. But for you, I'd say learn Terraform. And if you want to be an engineer, be great at Terraform. Yeah, engineer, yeah, definitely.
All right. So there we go. Cool. So Mike says, all right. Mike says, no tech background, interested in cloud architect. Oh, Alonzo, I'll let you start off with this one. Can I get into this role without being an engineer role first?
Absolutely, Mike. You could have been a Iditarod champion. Okay, has nothing to do with with technology. And that's actually a good thing, because just like anything where you have experience, but it's the wrong experience, we don't have to reverse engineer any bad mistakes or any bad habits. So we're able to get you going from the ground up, fresh, new, with a new uninterrupted perspective. So we, like everyone else and a lot of our successful students, regardless of their backgrounds, whether they're tech, whether they have certifications or not, it doesn't matter. We teach everyone from the ground up with these 3 precepts, which consists of what is the tech, what does it do, when would you use it, and we apply different business cases on how to build that architecture based on those foundations. So it does not matter. All we require of you is a great internet connection, desktop, laptop, and the ability to learn, because as we teach and share consistently with everyone that's our student or wants to be, the program works if you do.
And Mike, I want to elaborate on that a lot more. So engineering and architecture have nothing to do with each other. And I know why you're asking the question, but I'm going to ask you this question. I want you to think about this. If you have experience in fixing the engines on the airplane, will that teach you how to become an airplane pilot? And the answer is no, overwhelmingly no. Architects design, present, and sell, and engineers code and configure. Engineering experience is not valid when it comes to being an architect. Now, engineering experience is wonderful. It gives people a deep tech background, but Mike, I've got engineers that have in our training program, because engineering does not teach you architecture. So if you were an engineer first, you're going to need the same architect training after your 10-year engineering career as you would if you started as an architect. But I'll give you some extra examples. And Mike,
he's in healthcare too, by the way.
Okay, so Mike, if you're in healthcare, you are far more prepared, and I'll tell you why, than if you were actually an engineer. Healthcare is good, and I'll tell you why. But first, I'll give you some examples. 2 weeks ago, Pierre D., our student, got hired as a cloud architect, first tech job ever. Jennifer Emu from healthcare, she was a mental health tech, working at JP Morgan Chase as a cloud architect after our training program. Wallace Agana in the UK, working as an enterprise architect after our training program. Again, no tech background whatsoever. While we're at it, Daniel Bosu. Talk about a kid I wish I could adopt. I love this kid. He was 20 years old when he took our program. He never even graduated high school, and he's now working as a cloud architect. But, I'll give you lots of examples. Maybe Romanek Ivan Tamba was working as a waiter before we trained him, now at AWS as a cloud architect, or Coyote, who's now working as a cloud architect. Again, he was a college student that we worked with no tech background. Noah Parker just got hired. He was a social worker. He's now a cloud architect. That's his first tech job. For example, Vladimir was a 24-year-old who recently got a cloud architect job. And I give you hundreds of examples, or at least a large number of them. And I can go again and again and again. Engineering is not going to teach you architecture. So engineering is construction, architecture is design. So an architect builds the blueprint. And Mike, I'm going to tell you why I love healthcare and why it's the best background for this. But I want you to really think of it this way. If I taught you how to build a house, and I don't know how to use a hammer, nail, or a screwdriver because I'm an architect and we don't touch tools. But if I gave you a hammer and a nail and taught you construction and taught you how to put up drywall, do you think that would prepare you to design a shopping mall or a 30-story hotel because you learned how to use a hammer, a nail, and a screwdriver? Of course it would not. And that's why engineering who builds and does construction has nothing to do with architecture, because the careers are so different. Now, Mike, here is the job. And I don't know your job, but let's say I'm practicing internal medicine. A patient comes in and they have what's called the chief complaint. And they say, Mike, my throat hurts. I say, okay, I know. Now, Mike, I'm going to ask him some questions. I'm going to take a history, and I don't know your healthcare field. I'm going to show you the architect process. And I'm going to say to the patient, let's say it's Chris. And I say, Chris, what makes your throat better? And he says, I drink tea. And I say, Chris, what makes your throat worse? And he says, when I scream at you, Mike, which I've been doing a lot of these days. And I say, Chris, stop screaming at me. And then I say, Chris, can I examine you? And I take a tongue depressor and I stick a flashlight down his throat. I notice it's red or erythematous. I listen to his heart and his lungs. I push on his belly, note that he doesn't have any appendicitis and such. And then what do? Mike, I make a diagnosis and then I build a treatment plan. You're a chiropractor. Good. You're going to be in the same situation. Now, what do I do as an architect? Now, Alonzo, please tell me about your business goals, your business pain points, your business challenge. Hey, Alonzo, do you care if I bring a team of cloud engineers here to baseline your system? They do the exam. From there, I make a diagnosis, and from there, I build a plan. So doctor interview a patient, architect interview a client. Doctor asks some questions, architect asks some questions. Doctor assess the patient's symptoms and their objective findings via x-rays, etc. Architect examine or baseline the systems. Doctor make a plan, architect make a plan. So if I came to you and told you that I had sacroiliac pain, you would then, for example, you would examine me. You might put me into flexion, extension. You put my hips in internal rotation, external rotation. And from there, you're going to do an x-ray. Something's going on around here. You might come up with a treatment plan. It could be some high velocity, low amplitude movements to try and adjust something. It could also be, for example, physical therapy. It could be Rolfing or massage or some other thing, and that's your plan. So, Mike, you're already working as an architect. You're architecting people's health as a chiropractor. The cloud architect role is the identical job. Just we speak to business executives instead of patients. And from there, we build the same kind of plan. Now, when it comes to chiropractic care or medicine, the next thing that we need to do is as follows. In medicine, I might need to prescribe my patient Coumadin or warfarin because they've got AFib and I don't want them to get a stroke. Now, there's sales in there. I got to go sell my patient into taking their treatment plan. As an architect, we've got to sell the person, the customer, into buying the solution. In chiropractic care, you might need to sell somebody into 10 physical therapy sessions, especially if they're paying it for themselves. And you're going to have to show them, look, this pain is going to be mitigated by this treatment plan. It'll enhance your mobility, your stability, your function, your X, Y, Z thing going on. So, Mike, you don't need to be an engineer, but you need to have great system design skills, which is based upon your knowledge of the network and the data center. And you won't get that in certification. You're going to need training for that. You must have excellent communication skills because you're going to have to get to the root of the problem. No different as a chiropractor than it is for an architect. You're going to need to be highly emotionally intelligent because you're going to walk into customers and they've made mistakes. And you're going to have to coordinate large teams of people. And trust me, if you haven't coordinated large teams of people, and I'm sure you've done it in healthcare, you're going to need to do the same thing. Sometimes, Mike, we have to deliver bad news, as you have already done, I'm sure, in your career. And for that, we need lots of empathy as well. We need to be able to present because we're going to be constantly presenting in front of customers and at conferences. So you're going to have to do that. Now, we're going to have to be detail-oriented because if we don't listen carefully, in healthcare, somebody dies, in my world, or in your world, somebody's pain doesn't get fixed or problem doesn't get fixed, and they've got long-term pain, and who knows, they could commit suicide because of it, so they could still die. So getting to the root of the problem and getting the right information for us is critical. Same thing for the architect. Now, our tools are the only thing that's different. You know, my tool might be a server or a virtual machine or a container or a firewall to fix things instead of being a macrolide antibiotic versus a penicillin antibiotic versus a quinolone antibiotic. Job's identical to anything in healthcare. It's the same job as a lawyer does. They ask a client some questions, they evaluate the evidence, they make a diagnosis, they make a plan. It's the same thing an accountant does. And that's why people misconstrue the architect and engineering job. Our world has nothing to do with engineering. It's all about designing, presenting, and selling a solution to improve them. So no, you don't need to be an engineer. We could easily train you as an architect. My healthcare people do really, really, really well because you're already 30% trained. But unfortunately, what's in the certification will not teach you these things, and here's why. They will teach you the name of a service and how to configure that service. Now, Mike, we don't use those names of services with our customers, or we can't configure that service. So, and the reason we can't use these customer names, these silly names that are in a certification like S3 with our customers are, if I was with my patients and I said, I can give you a Z-Pack, I can give you Celebrex, and I only used Pfizer drugs with my patients by using their marketing names, the patients would think, you know, maybe I own stock in Pfizer, and they wouldn't trust me. And in medicine, we have to be a trusted advisor. Same thing as an architect. I can talk to the customer about their object storage. I can talk to them about their virtual machines, but the second I use any AWS buzzwords, I am kicked out of the room, I am fired, and my replacement will thank me for the $400,000 principal architect job they got instead. So keep that in the back of your mind. And what you need to learn is how to design the systems. And we can teach you that. But that's the difference between an engineer and an architect. That's why engineering does not prepare you to be an architect. And that's why you don't need to be an engineer first.
Right. So I think before we get to James' question, I think the key takeaway there is you can do whatever you want. Doesn't matter about your background.
No.
You don't need to do someone else's job to do someone else's job. So thank you guys for letting me save my voice on that one. I really appreciate that. All right. So James T., could you expand on the importance of your brand and how to leverage LinkedIn to find employment opportunities, etc.? Without giving away our program, gentlemen, I will encourage one of you to answer that. And if you do start to give away a program, I will ding you with our dinger.
I'll get buzzed. Okay, James T. What are people saying about you once you leave the room? What are they saying about you before you get to the room? That is your brand. So no matter where you are your own ambassador in what you do, say, how you carry yourself, and so forth. So with that being said, not only is that a social currency, if you will, it applies to the corporate realm as well, and that extends to your resume. It extends to who you are and what you say about yourself on LinkedIn. So being able to align yourself effectively with the job that you want, it has to speak to that brand that you represent yourself on LinkedIn, and using that helps you to attract through our program the right people for the right opportunities to become a cloud architect. What about you, Mike?
So, James, here's the thing. The better your brand, the more the world's going to want you. So, Apple releases a new phone. It's not as good as the newest Android phone, but there's people waiting outside the store in a queue for a mile or 3, 4, 5 kilometers long. They're out there for 48 hours. Why? Because Apple has the best brand. If I go out there and post on LinkedIn, me personally, with the brand that I have, I was in 100 major publications last year. I've worked for the best tech companies, and I had marketing people to help me build my brand. And I say, do you know, I decided to sell my company, and my goal now is to go work for you and improve the performance of your business. I've helped multi-billion-dollar organizations increase the revenue by XYZ%. I've reduced the operating cost by XYZ%, and I'm here and I want to help you. I have 10 job offers, James, before the day is over because I have that brand. So having a brand is huge. One of the architects that I trained had his job about a year. He just got laid off, and a day later, he's on another interview. He'll have a new job before he uses 20% of his severance pay, which means he got a big bonus and a big chunk of cash that he can buy a house with. Poof, done, because his brand is so good. So the brand matters that much. And what you're actually dealing with is, making sure that you have this. So the key is, what content are you publishing? Is it showing you as a leader, or is it showing you as a techie? Nobody wants a techie as an architect. They want a leader. Are you showing emotional intelligence in your communication? Are you showing executive writing in your communication? Are you making the world want you? What have you done in your resume to show that you're an actual architect? What shows how you can impact business performance? You have these kind of things, then 100% poof, it's there. You're ready. So the answer is absolutely. So that's how important it is. It's very important. Look, GM makes a Corvette. I've never driven one. I have no idea if they're good cars or bad cars. I have a buddy that's got a Ferrari. The Corvette may be just as fast. I have no idea. I don't know anything about performance cars. I have a 4-cylinder turbo diesel Mercedes SUV that gets 30 miles a gallon of diesel, and I love the darn thing. I'm not about performance. I'm about comfort. But the point is that that Ferrari cost a whole lot more than the Corvette. Why? What is Chevy? I don't know. Do they make SUVs? Do they make trucks? Do they make race cars? Do they make cheap cars? Do they make this? What are they? You don't know. The brand is all over the place. It's a hodgepodge. You know what Mercedes brand is, and they cost twice as much. You know what Ferrari's brand is, the McLaren brand, the Lamborghini brand. You get it. You know the BMW brand. It's a driver's machine. You get it. You know what it is. That's the key. Have that strong brand. It raises your value and it raises your opportunities. It's that important.
Yep. Well, and so, we all we talked about was the positive. There's a negative side to the brand.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you watch out for you have to make sure that you are taking care of your brand.
Yes.
Every single day.
Yeah, it's like you're building a sandcastle. It's painstaking. It takes work. You have to dig. You're breaking your back for it, and you built this wonderful brand. And because of location, because of some other exterior situation that you could more than likely have avoided, that particular wave washes it all down. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that you have to protect your brand because it takes months, years to build, all for something you may say on social media, something that you may have participated in that had high visibility for the news. That will wash it away. How many times have we seen someone with a very lucrative position say something, do something?
Yep.
It ends up on social media. People find out where they live. Next thing you know, they not only lose their job, their brand is destroyed, and no one will touch them.
Just go on YouTube and search for people that ruined their reputation in 3 minutes or whatever, and you'll find countless videos. And these are high profile individuals, but it happens to us normal people every day.
Yes.
So, my favorite saying, my favorite rule is type out that message and then delete it.
Yeah.
Or type out that thing and then delete it. Or type it out and let it sit there and come back to it, And I keep saying type, but it can also work with writing or recording or doing anything. Never do your first of anything when it comes, because especially if it's going to be something that's public. Because every single thing that you do is your brand.
Yep.
That Facebook post that you made about your grandma's birthday party. So that goes into your brand. So you have to curate that brand. So good question.
Yeah.
All right. Steve C, glad to see you. Hope you enjoyed the B2B class this morning, Steve, as well as all the rest of the students and clients. Would you say that certificates are about half of what is needed to get cloud hired as an enterprise cloud architect? And what would be the rest of the needed skills abilities?
Okay, Steve, I'm going to give you an example of exactly what employers think of these, and then I'll tell you what to do. So, Steve, imagine you're getting dressed for a job interview, and it's a $300,000 architect job, and you go to Nordstrom and you buy a $3,000 Canali suit, you buy some $500 Ferragamo shoes, you buy a really nice shirt that was hand-stitched, you buy a $200 tie, and you put on a belt that's not polished. The certifications are about as important as the belt that's not polished on that outfit. So, and here's the thing, because the certification is the name of a service which you can't use and how to configure the service which you can't use. And they force you to do proprietary things, Steve. So in an AWS certification, they'll recommend DynamoDB, Amazon Aurora, WAF, Elastic Compute Service. And Steve, the second you use any of them, you basically put your customer in a bad position. I would say the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is about 5 to 8% of what you need, max. And you can never get past more than 5%. Now, Steve, I've had people like Delroy Back get a cloud security architect job with 0 certifications, but I can tell you right now, somebody applied to be an instructor, they were 9x AWS certified, and I wouldn't speak to them because I know that they've got too many certifications and too many different careers, and I don't even want to talk to them. I want architects, not cert people. So you got to realize that certifications are not there, because for architects, the certification of the name of the service can't use it with our customer or we'll be escorted out of the room, and we don't configure. So there's nothing in that that's valid. But goes back to my cake example. Let's say you wanted to bake a cake. And my wife likes vanilla cake. So let's say I baked my wife a vanilla cake and I put a bunch of chocolate chips in there. She'd like it better if I put chocolate icing on the top of the cake. So the certification is the icing, but nobody buys icing to eat the icing out of the jar. They buy the icing to put it on the cake. You are the actual cake. The certifications are just the icing. So what are these other 92% of the things that you need to know to be a cloud architect, Steve? Well, first, what does a cloud architect do? They take the stuff from the network in the data center and they move it to the cloud. And what is a cloud? Really, when we strip off all the stupid names, it's a network in a data center. It's effectively, instead of buying your house, you rent a room in a hotel. The cloud is really, your virtual private cloud is just your room in that hotel. So what do you need to know? You must know the network in the data center. So on the technical side, which is only 30 to 50% of the job, Steve, the rest of it's non-technical. What your focus is really going to be on, from the network side, it's going to be on BGP, it's going to be on OSPF, it's going to be on IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting, route summarization, and the such, also called route aggregation. It's going to be on your switching technologies, because you're going to be using switching, means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, port channel, ether channel, link aggregation group kind of things. It's going to be, for example, your ARP, your proxy ARP, your DNS, your DHCP. It's going to be your network address translation when you've got overlapping IP addresses, and not like a NAT gateway. It's going to be one-to-one NAT, to many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, and patch. So those are the real key things from the networking side. On the data center side, what do we deal with in any data center or cloud? We deal with virtual machines. We deal with containers and container orchestration like Kubernetes. We deal with storage area networks, and all clouds have the same storage area networks, and they're the same storage area networks we've used for the last 20 years: block storage, object storage, and file storage. It's an understanding of the applications and how they can improve business. How can we use a unified communication platform to get people working together better, more efficiently, for example? How can we optimize the supply chain with an ERP system, for example? How can we collect data to make better business decisions? So these are the kind of applications in business that are important. We need to understand what those applications are, because our solutions will be involved not making them, finding the right applications to pop into the business. Now, we also need to understand about databases, meaning the main ones, the NoSQL databases, the relational databases, the data warehouses like Postgres. We have to have a small understanding of what machine learning would do, because we're going to be using AI and machine learning in every architecture. And we're going to really need to understand storage technology, which is, next generation firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, and VPN concentrators, encryption strategies, security policies, security frameworks, those kind of things. So that's the underlying tech fundamentals, Steve, and none of them are covered in any certification. Now, the next thing which is not covered in certification, and Steve, you are students, you're being trained on it, is how do you put the pieces together? What I just told you were the individual bricks of the building, but how do the bricks get put together in a manner that's going to optimize business performance? So there's two sides of that. There is training on the technical piece of architecture. How do you build your architectural framework that it's going to solve the business problem? That's the architect piece, which is different than the engineering piece. But Steve, if I'm going to ask you to improve my business and performance with tech, and you don't know business, you don't know how to fix it. It's like a doctor that doesn't know how the body works. And that's why we are not engineers, we are architects. Engineers focus on the tech, we focus on the business. So you need to be able to read a balance sheet, a financial statement, for example. You need to understand about organizations and their routes to revenue. how organizations' operating costs, the people, the processes, and the technology. Because as architects, you give presentations on a daily basis. Potentially, if you reach the level that I did, 3 to 5 a day, you could be in an environment where you're presenting constantly. So you're going to need monster presentation skills. Now, you're also going to be communicating to get requirements, which means good verbal communication skills and good listening skills, which are equally as important. Because if you don't get the right information, you've got nothing. So beyond that, next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to communicate to an executive. Now, Steve, Alonzo is my executive. I'm going to communicate him 2 things. Alonzo, I have a solution that's going to be good for your business. It's going to make your workers work better. Look at him. Alonzo's totally tuned out because I explored no executive presence. Now, if I say, Alonzo, I've got something really exciting to talk about to you today. We've got a technology architecture that enhances your revenue by 2% and includes your employee satisfaction simultaneously. Now he's interested. So not only did I have to communicate with that executive presence, but also I had to be relevant to him. I talked to the executive about my tech. He kicks me out of the building and my replacement thanks me. I talked to the executive about the tech and how it improves their business. Come back, Mike, let's talk. Let's go to dinner. Of course, I'll pay for them with my corporate credit card because, Steve, we got to do a lot of entertaining of clients as architects because we're part of the sales process. Now, Steve, after I go talk to that customer and I talk to Alonzo about his business and I really figure out what's going on, and I find out that he's got 8,000 servers in his data center, which he probably does, 3 petabytes of storage. He's got 4 internet service providers connections. He's got an extranet, which is connecting to him to 30 different supply chain partners. And he's got 25,000 remote access employees. I go, uh-oh. And that's going to happen in every architecture. And you're going to say, who are the people that I need to design this properly? So now what do you got to do? You got to go back to your own company. And now you got to go sell your management to give you all the smart people that are necessary to deploy these things. Architecture is a team sport. It's not like engineering. Engineers can work in projects, but architects always work in projects. So you may have to find 3 cloud security architects, 2 cloud network architects, a cloud IAM architect, a database architect, a big data architect. You may have to get some offensive security engineers, some defensive security engineers, some DevOps engineers, some maintenance people called SysOps people to figure out if they can easily maintain what you're going to design, and then a bunch of cloud engineers to go design your solution. Now you got to go lead that team. You got to keep that team running and moving, even though they don't work for you, which means you can't hire them and fire them. But if they don't work, you got fired because your job's not running well. So you got to be really, really, really good at these kind of things, the finesse of moving people around. And then ideally, you're going to ask engineers to work for you, which you will. You're going to have to ask the engineers what are their career goals and figure out how to coach them and sell them to management to get them promoted as well. Because if they're going to be helping you with your work, you probably should be able to help them with that. And then you're going to be entertaining clients. So you're going to have to learn how to do that. We teach it, Steve, in our program, specifically the elite program that you're in. But, when I started my architect career, I had to read books on which fork to use, for example, because it matters. I had to take golf lessons because it matters. So those are the things. But I would say, we can count certifications as 5% of what's necessary, but the other 95 are those things that we're talking about. Steve, Chris, it looks like you're speaking, but you're muted.
That's because I was doing a lot of research here in the background.
Okay.
On the future questions, and I talk to myself when I'm researching. Sorry, but I think we get that question a lot, and I think it boils down to the reality that certifications do help in getting an interview.
Yes,
they help in getting an interview. So there's the perception that it's needed to get the job. Or it's needed to show that you can do the job. Those are the two are not related at all. It's just there's that perception that because it helps to get the interview, that it's necessary to get the job, and and that it has an outsized impact. It does not. And I'm going to go into this in depth later on a future question that I was researching. But certifications are a bad use of something to try and measure competency, because on a piece of paper you can't measure someone's competency from a piece of paper that they hand you for their resume. You're not going to get it, because if they've done it right, they've made that paper make them look great.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be able to communicate their competency on that piece of paper. And so that's where certifications come in. That's where experience comes in. We, as hiring managers, and I say we because I was in human resources and did hiring, we use these things because there's no way for us to measure competency other than these arbitrary things like certifications or number of years of experience.
Until we interview them.
Right. So that I'm purely just talking about just a piece of paper looking at somebody on a resume, and that's why you see what you do with certifications and experience and so on and so forth. And there's a question about that I'll dive into this deeper later. You guys know how I love the question that I'm talking about. But I wanted to tap that in there. Like, that's why it may seem like certifications have an outsized impact. It's because they're one of the two arbitrary things that HR and recruiters use to try and filter people out. Because you have to think, these for these roles, they're literally getting hundreds of thousands of applications for just a single role, and it's not possible for someone to go through hundreds and thousands and read everything and analyze every single one. They're not. If they tried to read and analyze every single one of those hundreds or thousands of applications or resumes, nobody's ever going to get hired. So that's why unfortunately, that's why these arbitrary things are there and have that perception, have created that perception that they're necessary when they're not. So wanted to throw that in there before we moved in. And Alonzo, if you wanted to throw in anything, I think Mike was pretty good.
Yeah, I think he did. Like, case in point, using Mike, he's with his prior medical knowledge. Say, for instance, you have a loved one. They have a very complicated disease, and there's a need for a very specialized protocol of treatment. And you're looking for doctors. You're looking for second opinions, and someone just slides a degree across the table. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, right? It's like, no, that degree is not going to cut it. I need to have some more information.
Yeah. So what? So this is the same. This is the same equivalent situation that a hiring manager is going to reciprocate if you were to say, "Well, I'm certified in this, that, and the other." Okay, what's next? So, but actually, and substantially for that, understand that the very people who are putting valuation on these certifications are the ones who could greatly benefit the most, right?
Right.
So if they're not, like case in point, I'm multi-certified and I've gone through these exams, and from, like, say, for instance, AWS's perspective on their answers, multiple choice answers, all of those answers are AWS exclusive on solving cloud solutions. Realistically, that is not realistic. Okay. Case in point about the BGP ebook that we just launched today. And it is rife with detailed, valuable information about what you need. That is one of the crux, one of the valuations of becoming a cloud architect. And there was not one, or maybe I think in one of the practice questions, there was just a limited detail. Actually, it was just an answer out of one question out of hundreds that I practiced with. One of the solutions, which was wrong, by the way, talked about BGP. So when you're living and you're looking through the keyhole, the keyhole of that, you're only getting a AWS perspective through these lenses of what you think cloud architecture is, and that's I think that's kind of it's not correct. It is not, and it's almost damaging to people's experience, to their time frame.
It's not almost. It is.
It is. Let's
Sorry.
just
Sorry,
call it what
I
it is.
couldn't find my buzzer fast enough. That
I
was
think it's irresponsible.
Yeah.
I'm going to be blunt with it.
Yeah.
It's irresponsible for people to position themselves in saying that only these type of services are applicable to you being successful. But in this real world, not everybody eats fruit, not everybody eats meat, not everybody eats something specific and is able to live a full life based on using only exclusive stuff. So I won't be an echo chamber. I won't underscore what's already been said, but certifications can only do so much. It's your competency that must shine through, and you must be able to communicate that well to the hiring manager about your capabilities.
All right,
Absolutely.
Tyrone, I'm ready for that question. Put it up there. There we go. All right. This is my court, guys. I'll let you play in it after I'm done. Julian says, some cloud architect positions where I live, Brazil, are requiring admin skills, including Azure admin, Windows admin, VMware admin. Am I missing something here? Thanks. Yes, you are missing something.
Yeah.
The fact that the entire hiring practice is broken, starting from the job descriptions to the interview to getting you hired. Like it's completely broken. So let's start with the job descriptions. The job descriptions are worthless. I come from HR. I've interviewed thousands of people. I've written job descriptions. I talk with people that are in charge of these things every day. And job descriptions make no sense. And it's unfortunate because going back to that perception that I was talking about the perception that certifications have, because there's no way to measure competency on a piece of paper, but it's these bad job descriptions are just creating they're creating a problem and making people feel like they need to learn everything underneath the sun. So let's talk about job descriptions. Like this is actually pretty tame. If they're asking for admin, at least it's related to what they're hiring for. Kind of, sort of,
but not really.
sort of. Now, what if you saw a job description that said that they required 10 years of Kubernetes experience? Let me tell you, you would have to see that job description 2 years from now for that job description to be valid.
And we've seen plenty of them.
Kubernetes was not released until 2014. So there's actually job descriptions out there that list requirements of time and experience on certain things, that these things have not been in existence long enough for those metrics to be met. So that right there, that single thing right there just proves that this entire job description is invalid. Like maybe the first sentence, ABC Corporation does blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe that's the valid part. But after that, if they're asking for things that are completely unrelated.
You're not.
And if you've been on here long enough, Julian, I don't recognize you, so this is going to be new to you, hopefully. And that's why we do this. This is why I don't mind repeating myself. Because I've said this before, and I will say it until I've got new examples, but I keep getting new examples. I just don't remember them. They're all the same. But we had a vice president of hiring for a cloud company come and speak to our class one day. This was in February, 2 months ago. And in our class, our students said, why does this job description have all of this? I was like, okay, my students are putting him to the fire. Okay, good. I like it. But he was great. He did great. He handled it great. But he was honest. He said, well, that looks like a bad copy and paste job on that job description. A job posted for public viewing for this company and bad copy and paste job. That's not rare.
That's not rare.
Every single minute occurrence. Not even on every single day. Every single minute, you've got somebody creating bad job descriptions because they don't have the time to create a good job description. We don't have time. HR, and because hiring managers don't have the time to create them, HR probably has to create them. And then HR doesn't really know what the job is. And so everybody's just piecing together bad stuff. I had another hiring manager. I actually had a different one tell me this exact same thing. So it may sound like the same story, but it's from a different person. But I had another hiring manager tell me that their job description contradicts itself. So that's two people in the past 3 months that have told me that their job descriptions contradict themselves. And they're not fixing it. Like it's sad. It's unfortunate. So the thing that you're missing is that it's broken. That's one of the reasons why we do what we do. We come out here and we forcefully, we're not shy about it. We come out and we forcefully, we're like, no. This is what you need to do. And that's because we've done it over and over again. People continue to do it over and over again. Hiring managers tell us over and over again. And that's what we communicate to all of you. So I told you in the chat box, this was my favorite question. And it doesn't only stop at the job descriptions. It's even the first one or two people that you might talk to about the job.
Still might not know.
Still might not know because they're going off that job description. Because they're a low-level recruiter in a 75,000 person organization. They don't know. They're going off the piece of paper that's given to them, and they're taking it at face value. I mean, and they should. They shouldn't. They have no reason not to take it at face value. That's their job. They have to do that. But so even the first one or two people that you might be speaking to might be parroting what that job description says because they don't know any better. Now, granted, you might get an interview where they want you to do everything underneath the sun. Run very fast, very far, run away. Go to the next job opening because you can't do everything underneath the sun. You may find some jobs that specifically do want somebody with an application background because they have a particular thing that they're trying to fill. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's that job. That's not every job.
Right.
But you won't know it just from the job description. You'll know it when you get to the interview process. Because I've spoken with hiring managers and they say, well, we've got these 4 positions, but this one here, I need somebody with this type of background. I have to have somebody that's got software because of what this role is going to be required to do. But these other 3 roles, no, I need somebody that can do the business.
So, and Julian, I'm going to add to this. First, I know many architects in Brazil, and none of them are allowed to touch the technology. They are not allowed. 2, job descriptions, honestly, are a comedy routine. In fact, Chris or Tyrone, can you put a link to the CIO magazine article on what is a cloud architect? And what happened, Julian, was the cloud architect job descriptions were a comedy routine for every architect. Nobody that's in the actual tech industry ever saw an architect do any of these stupid things that weren't a job description. So they literally started asking the chief information officer, who's your boss, by the way? What do you want in a cloud architect? And they wrote a whole article, and none of them includes touching the technology. So not only does not do any, I've never met an architect that does, but touch the technology, and every company won't allow their employees to. CIO magazine wrote an article about it. Now, there is one thing, Julian, you will come across. Engineers are typically lower paid, much lower paid than architects. And the reason is the engineers focus on the tech, which is the low value thing financially. I didn't say in terms of importance, but I said financially. And the architects focus on the business, and it's much higher rewarded financially. And occasionally a company wants to hire an engineer that's so good, and the engineer's worth more than they're able to pay them. And they want an engineer that good, and they call it an architect, but it's not it's really an engineer. There is a kind of architect called the technical architect, which is different than every other architecture position in the world. It's not an architect at all. It's a super smart engineer, and they're called a technical architect. They do get involved in design. They're extremely capable. Their focus is the tech. And unfortunately, because their focus is the tech, they get paid half of the people that are focused on the business. So I did have a job one time early in my career. I accepted it. I left 3 days later. They hired me as a consulting systems architect. And then on my third day, they said, Mike, I got some engineering work for you to do. And I said, I took an architect job. And they said, well, we really wanted an engineer, but we knew we couldn't pay an engineer this. So we created an architect job. Here's your engineering. And I said, goodbye. And I went to my other architect job. I had another one that was waiting. I started the next day at the new job. It was exciting, or 5 days later or something like that. I went to the new company. But, there are no architecture positions where you're there. It's funny, we had a call with the principal, Chris and I had a call with the principal architect at Microsoft recently, and he was collaborating on some kind of certification thing he was talking about. And what he said to us was, the only thing common amongst all architects, application architects, network architects, enterprise architects, cloud architects, is none of you guys are ever allowed to touch the tech. And I said, yep.
And this was a software guy too.
Yep, a software architect.
Yep. But yeah, so just to close this one out, because George brought up a good question that mirrored this in response to what we're talking about. George said, companies who hire cloud architects have their own HR taking care of all the details of the job descriptions carefully, don't they? You would think so, but
no.
That goes, so HR shouldn't be handling this process, right? And this comes from someone that's been in HR. HR is great at many of their responsibilities, but the hiring of individuals for every single department and every single hiring manager in every single department, that is not something they're good at, because it's not possible. Now, if every single department in every location of the company had their own HR, maybe it would work. Maybe. Because they're closer to the need. They're more, there's the disconnect between the person that needs this filled and the person, HR, that's supposed to fill it for them. They're so far disconnected.
And here's what happens, George. Chris is an experienced HR executive. He's got a big background here. So I'm going to ask Chris right now to come up with a job description for this position. Chris, I'm the chief medical officer, and I need a cardiothoracic surgeon at a level 1 trauma center. Please write that job description.
I need you to tell me what you needed for that role.
Chris, I'm really busy. I'll cut and paste you something from the internet and send it to you. Could you tune it then? The point is Chris doesn't know what a cardiothoracic surgeon's job is, and he can't write that job description. And let me tell you, there's nobody smarter than Chris and nobody more resourceful than Chris, but he can't write a job description for somebody else's job that he doesn't know. And Chris is a chief operating officer, and I promise you he's a million times more methodical and most likely more educated than the average person in HR. And he's got a C-level background versus that. So there's that. So the point is HR can't do it, which is why, George, you can't be applying for jobs anyway. You got to get the jobs to come to you. Because if you apply for a job, you're going to get auto-rejected. Now, George, I've never had more than 10% of anything on a job.
Well, hold on. You just glossed right over that. Why are they going to get auto-rejected?
And here's why you're going to get auto-rejected. Because you're going to have a stupid job description that's going to want people with 3 Olympic gold medals, 500 years experience, and 20 years experience in 40 different people's careers that are seemingly unrelated, and they are unrelated. That's what HR wants. So HR is going to use that with their applicant tracking system. They're going to match your resume with software. You're going to get auto-rejected. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have companies come to you, for example, I've never applied for a job in my life. My wife accidentally applied me for a job at Cisco. I didn't even know about it, and I went to Cisco for a decade, loved it. But every other job, I called a recruiter. Most of the time, I call Christina Marino from IT Excel and say, Christina, it's Mike. I'm bored. I'm looking for a new job. And she says, send me your updated CV, Mike. I haven't spoken to you for a while. What are you looking for? I'm looking for an enterprise architect role. I do this. The next thing she does is she calls all the people she knows and says, Mike, I got this superstar enterprise architect, this guy, Mike Gibbs. He's so good that if you don't need an architect, you should still talk to him. But I know you need an architect. How fast can I get Mike to talk to you? And then she'll prep me on what that hiring manager likes. Now that hiring manager will interview me, he'll hire me, I'll take the job, and then 6 months later, I'll probably get auto-rejected by HR anyway, because HR didn't think I met the requirements for the job, but I've already been there, promoted, and nobody cares. So they kind of keep that in the back of your mind. HR can't do this because HR can't write a job description for a position that they don't understand.
Right. Tyrone, let's get us the next question. Igor says CCNP and which one? Our cybersecurity certificate and which one? What looks more cool on a CV and which one gives you the most knowledge?
Igor, okay, so let's examine it in an exactly opposite direction. You're not going to get much knowledge at all in any certification, and we know that, but it's still good for your branding. Now, if you take a Cisco Certified Network Professional, that's not like an AWS exam. You will learn something. Because in the 10,000 pages necessary to pass the CCNP that you're going to have to read, it's 20 times deeper than an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, so you'll learn something. And if you do a cybersecurity certificate like the CISSP, you will still learn something, but what do you want to do? That's the key. Do you want to be a cloud networking person or have more networking knowledge? Do the CCNP. Are you more interested by security? Do the security one. Where do you want to be? So, for example, I like networking. So if I wanted to do cloud networking per se, I might do the CCIE and the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional because I love networking. And I might do the CCNP because it's good enough. It really is. But if I was more interested in cybersecurity, I'd pick some cloud cert like the Azure Solutions Architect Expert and a CCNP and be good with it. I'd probably do enterprise in today's world. But that's the key is, since you're not going to be learning from the certifications are kind of about how do you build your brand. So if I want to build a security brand because I want a security job, I get a security certificate. If I want a networking one, I get a networking certificate. And that way we can match it all on your resume and start showing things and showing more depth in what we want. That's really the key, Igor, is make it match your goals. What is your goals is the issue, but you're not going to get real knowledge on anything, any certification, but you'll get some on the CCNP and honestly some on the CISSP.
All right. I don't think we can really answer this one. So Alahaji says, how do companies require you to be truthful while they are doing false advertising, for example, telecommunication companies? Yeah, that's I'm not going to, I don't have any insight on somebody's perspective of someone lying or not.
Yeah, I don't either.
So when the three of you have lives, it is greatly appreciated. Well, thank you. It's greatly appreciated when you all join us.
We do.
All right. So Tyrone, if you can put the next one up. All right. So there's actually a follow-up to this one too. So when I finish reading this one, put the follow-up up, Tyrone. My university offers, this is what I was researching too, by the way, Mike. So I'm going to start it off. Okay, my university offers a master's in cloud computing. In your opinion, would this be worthwhile to help get an architect or engineering job? Thoughts on cloud computing degrees in general? And so I asked him what college or school was offering it. And he said, University of Maryland, Global Master's of Science. I'm getting my computer science degree from there right now and wondering what a good next step would be. So I only, just because I'm a data guy, I did a little bit of research. So just for a quick rundown of the online cloud computing master's degree at the University of Maryland Global Campus, you have 6 courses. One is decisive thinking and communication, cloud services and technologies, network engineering, cloud infrastructure planning, design and configurations, cloud computing implementations and migrations, and a capstone of cloud computing orchestration. Now, at the same school, their Master's of Business Administration is communication, problem solving, then leading organizations, financial decision making, leading in a global environment, innovation through marketing and technology, strategic decision making. And as a third option, I decided to look at the University of Tennessee Martin. We partner with some professors at the University of Tennessee Martin. They are a top 50 program. They are the #1 business school in the state of Tennessee. So I decided to take a look at what their Masters of Business Administration program looks like. So their Masters of Business Administration includes managerial accounting, business law, managerial economics, corporate finance, leadership and organizational behavior, marketing, analytics and operations management, business policy, and strategy.
You know where I'm going to school.
I want to know Alonzo, which one of those three would you go with? I think you're muted. I'm not sure.
Alonzo's muted. I'm going to University of Tennessee.
Yeah. I'm going to UT Martin.
Yeah.
The reason being is because if we're going to go with a master's degree, we don't want to focus on technology.
No.
You want to the purpose of a master's degree is to focus on business.
Yes.
Now, there may be, you said that you're getting your undergrad at University of Maryland Global, so there may be some benefit to get parlaying that into a master's from there, depending on what type of like financials are involved. If you do that, do the MBA.
Definitely.
Now, just for argument's sake, and I'm not picking on any university, and I'm not promoting any university, but the same degree from the University of Tennessee at Martin will be about $5,000 less than at University of Maryland Global Campus. And arguably, the classes that are offered are much more prescient to the role that you desire, even if it's an engineering role. Because if you're going to be an engineer, you need to be the best engineer, and you need to be able to communicate and solve those business problems as an engineer. Moving forward in this day and age of technology becoming more automated, more machine related, AI being able to do more of the work. If you're going to be an engineer, you're going to need to be much more business savvy. So I say that to say, if you're going to get an MBA, shop around, find the best one for you, and make sure the curriculum is appropriate for someone that's going to be in business. Because at the end of the day, all these roles are in business. They might be in tech, but tech is business. Gentlemen, any thoughts? That's what I was researching and it looked like I was reading a dissertation probably.
And I'm going to add to this, Andrew. And first, I would never do a second master's degree in engineering. And typically speaking, I would say not to do a single master's degree in engineering because a business degree is so important. Andrew Franz, if you go to salary.com, and I can give you 10 examples of jobs, the average person with business acumen in the U.S. earns $553,000 a year. And, and the How to Make More Money in Tech document, which I think we just released, or we'll be releasing, you can see different jobs that have business acumen, and all of them pay between $350 and $550. So there's that. So you want the business acumen. Secondly, in tech, nobody cares if you have a degree or not. They care, can you do the job? And you will not be taught anything in the universities that are related to the actual job. We had Daniel Bosa. Why do I love Daniel Bosa? Because he's a hard worker. He's a fighter. He's a warrior, just like me, and I like that about him. He's working at J.P. Morgan Chase in an extremely enviable cloud architect role, and he didn't graduate high school. I'm going to say that again. He did not graduate high school. Hired by the world's best bank, biggest bank, with no background in tech. I'll give you another example of Delroy Batt, cloud security architect, associate degree. I can give you so many examples of people that didn't even have a degree. Now, I'll tell you, Andrew, I use my master's in healthcare and I use my master's in business. And I've reached the top of all these organizations, and I've never done a technical degree. And I will tell you that when I have people with technical degrees, they often get, if they do too many, one master is good, but don't keep doing it. They almost get the scientist problem, where they learn how to communicate in the incorrect way. Their focus becomes on the minutiae and the details of things. And then when they try and interact with the big picture people, you have a communication mismatch. when you're being taught how to speak to techies, and you try and do that with a business person as you would in an architect role, you'll be sent home. So you ultimately have to unlearn these things. Even an MBA, like in an MBA program, they'll teach you how to write a 40-page document with APA citations. In reality business world, it's like, how do you take that 40 pages and summarize it to 3 pages or less that an executive can read? It's the exact opposite. Now, I have an MBA, Alonzo has an MBA, Chris has an MBA, and I'm going to tell you right now, Andrew, if I had a kid, I wouldn't let him do any master's degree other than an MBA, because that's how strongly I feel about it. And I would beg him or her to do that MBA. I'm trying to see if I can get my cat Cindy to do an MBA, but right now she's been running around chasing lizards, and college and universities just don't seem fun for her. But I'm going to keep asking her until she says yes. She's pretty smart, so I've got big goals for her. But my advice is, if you want a tech career, don't overly focus on tech education. The things that get you promoted are your business acumen, your leadership, your communication skills. They're the things that separate. For example, I don't know what I even have sitting here, but this is a sales rep at Amazon that on average earns $330,000. This is a principal architect at Microsoft at $380,000. When we start getting into business jobs, which is where you're getting your MBA or your business acumen training for, here you're dealing with a Palo Alto.
Angela, let us know in the chat box, where are you getting your master's and what are you getting your master's in?
Yeah,
sorry.
Please, Angela.
Angela just popped in.
Oh, Angela, we're thrilled to see you. But yeah, here's a senior director at Palo Alto, or here's a management consultant at Accenture. The point is the business skills are your high value ones. So focus on the high value ones as opposed to the tech ones. You'll learn more tech by studying on your own.
Angela's getting his MBA at Murray State University, right up the road from University of Tennessee Martin. But yeah, he's getting the MBA too. So the MBA is where you want to focus. And Angela's an enterprise architect. So
yes.
So yeah, thanks for popping in, Angelo, and sharing that bit of information. You came in right at a perfect time talking about a master's degree. All right. Sorry, I took over from Tyrone there for a second. Tyrone, I'll let you back. All right. James T says he's offered free CCNA training through his job. Would this be a good use of my time if I want to become a security or enterprise architect?
Well, James, I'm going to answer this one because I know you. James, in my assessment, your bigger challenge is not whether you know the technology, it's communicating the technology in a manner that others could understand. Now, there's two sides of this. First side is, the deeper you understand something, the easier it may be for you to communicate it. Meaning, if you don't understand it well enough, it sounds like one of those certification providers with their PowerPoint slides with the blah, blah, blah in the background. The reason is they've never held these jobs and they don't know better. And that's why it's hard to understand. You don't know it well enough, as Albert Einstein said, you can't explain it simply enough. So there's that. Now, the rest part of it is, if I had my time training the CCNA, or I had my time training executive communication skills, and you want to become an enterprise architect is all about your communication skills, and it has very little to do about your networking skills at that point, because you're so high level in the business, you're going to be coordinating between business divisions. So the key is, where's your knowledge gap? If you want to be a cloud architect and your goal, and you don't have the technical background, the CCNA training you could get through your job would be wonderful, and I would highly recommend it. If I wanted to be a security architect, CCNA wouldn't be on my list, because I wouldn't study for the networking career, I'd study for the security career. And if I wanted to be an enterprise architect, I'd ask my company to put me in more management classes, or leadership classes, or communication skills classes in the same time. But if I didn't know you, James, and I didn't know your background, I would say the CCNA is good if you want to be a cloud architect.
And see, that right there is a benefit of our program.
Exactly, because whether you're architecting someone's career or you're architecting someone's business, everybody's different. And this is why we can't use things like the well-architected framework, because that's assuming every customer is the same and you give them all the same set of stuff. When it's medicine, you have to know your patients. When it's architecture, you have to know your clients and their needs. And when it's professionally developing your people, you have to have something that's customized for them. I heard somebody was trying to make a program where they were trying to train DevOps engineers and cloud admins and architects in the same class. That's like trying to train an internist, a chiropractor, and a neurosurgeon in the same class. All three are important, but they're all different, and you need different training for them. So yes, that's why with everybody in our program, we do an intake, we find their goals, we help them build a plan. And when we get in classes, when it comes to explaining technology, for example, and someone explains something, we'll either teach them how to explain it better, or we'll teach them how to add that executive presence in the things that we did. So that's exactly why we do what we do, and that's why we get the results that we do. We love our clients. And they're even happier when they're hired. Steve, thank you.
Good, Steve.
Glad to hear that, Steve. All right. James says, could you advise me on how to sound confident? Okay, so we're going to start off with you don't sound confident. You are confident. That's what you can't sound. You have to be. All right, so let me finish the question. Now I'm gonna rephrase it. Can you advise me on how to be confident and well-spoken without coming off as robotic? Prepared for the interview but failed to execute. Finished the interview but was politely ushered out. Okay, so let's unpack this one. I'm not sure you should be interviewing.
Yeah,
let's come into the Slack community and send some messages to us. Let's see if you're where you need to be, because our number one rule is don't be interviewing if you're not ready. So if you're not confident, you're not ready.
Okay, I'm going to pick up on this, Chris, because James, if you're who I think you were pretty good in our program, and then you kind of disappeared, and you just popped back in. So here's what I want from you. First, make sure you've got the material down. You'll know if it's down if you can actually design these architectures in class. Meaning, do you know what to do? We give you the situation. If you know what to do, good, you're there. Secondly, James, there's a lot of exercises in that class to teach you how to stay calm under pressure. Now, when we are calm, we have one set of tonal qualities in our voice. When we are stressed, we sound fearful. When we sound fearful, we lose our actual confidence, regardless if we were confident at the first. So first, you got to believe in yourself. So let's make sure you have no competency gaps. I don't believe in, what do they call it, imposter syndrome? To me, imposter syndrome is when you don't know it well enough, you're uncomfortable. And when you know it well enough, poof, it's gone. Like when I started my networking career, I had imposter syndrome. 6 months later, when I knew networking, I didn't have imposter syndrome anymore. Now, Mike, you're an enterprise architect. Poof, I had imposter syndrome. Then I went to learn more. I didn't have imposter syndrome. So make sure you're confident. 2, make sure you use those exercises. I didn't bring in those relaxation coaches for no reason. They helped me in my martial arts practice. They helped me in my career, because when we're relaxed, prefrontal cortexes are engaged. We're thinking, logical reasoning. When we're stressed, they shut off. The amygdala kicks in and we don't sound smart. Believe me, one day my wife was mad at me. She said something to me and I responded in a stupid way. And then I had to go buy her 50 pairs of shoes to make her happy. I'm exaggerating the point, but that's what happens. When you're unhappy or frustrated, the amygdala kicks in and you say something dumb and you make mistakes. So that typically goes on. So please do that. Now, James, in your specific case, what I recall is that you typically speak in a somewhat monotonous voice when you describe technology. And in your specific case, which everybody's different, I needed to hear you say, make your point, pause, and go to your next point. So when I hear you say it, it sounds like BGP is a path vector routing protocol. I need you to change it to BGP from you is a path vector routing protocol. And know where to pause and where to collect your thoughts, because the whole thing is just different. Alonzo, I got this device for you. Hold on, Alonzo, I got this device for you. This device can change your life. For only $1,100, you can have conversations with your children in Japan right now as if they were here. I lost them. Now,
That was bad.
That was intentional. Because I wanted it to sound like what I typically hear from when we first get our engineers.
Mission
and we train them
accomplished.
and groom them into architects. Now, Alonzo, I got this mobile device. It is incredible. It's incredible because it can do the following. It can free you up from your desk, and you'll be able to work on the go. So if you have to take your son to a baseball game, you'll still be seen at work, and nobody's going to know better. While you're at it, you can write emails while you're waiting for your son to finish his exams. And that way you can still live your life and still homeschool your child. Now, while we're at it, Alonzo, I know you've got a lot of friends in Japan. With this device, you can have a video conference with them in Japan as if they are there, and it's only $1,100. You want one of these things?
So
I didn't say anything different, James, but I presented myself differently with gravitas. Now, each one of you all has different things that you need to do for your gravitas. And each one of you has to use certain different relaxation techniques. I use box breathing. Why do I use it? Because the SEALs use it. I think it's awesome. So that was my preferred one. But there's a lot of techniques. Please use them. And James, since I know who you are after, please come back to class. So we're in class so we can tune the stuff for you so you can kind of get hard.
Mike asked, are there lots of opportunities for remote cloud architect jobs?
Let's talk about what we mean by remote. Mike, there are more job opportunities for cloud architects than you could possibly imagine, and I can't see them getting filled in the next 10 years because right now I think we're the only people training architects out there in the entire world. Everybody else is training engineers, and the employers are dying to hire them, and they keep coming to us, telling why they want to hire our students because they can't find anybody that's trained as an architect. So there's a lot of jobs. Now, it depends on your definition of remote. I've been working as a cloud architect, enterprise architect, network architect since 2001. And that meant I lived in my house in Florida. I would work from home. I would jump on an airplane and fly to my customer site. And I was remote. And yes, they are remote. Most architect jobs are remote like that. And again, easy to find, no big deal. Because you're going to be spending more time at your customers in the office. Now, if you're saying, I'm wanting a remote architect job and I'm in the Democratic Republic of Congo, that's going to be a lot harder to get a remote cloud architect job because there's less business there. You may have to fly to Cape Town, South Africa to see some of your bigger clients. You may have to go to Lagos, Nigeria to find some bigger clients. So there's going to be travel, but there'll be less big business just because of what's going on economically speaking in the Democratic Republic of Congo than there would be in South Africa, just because that's the way the world works. When I lived in New York, for example, I worked as an architect. I still worked from home in Princeton, New Jersey, and drove to all the people in New Jersey and New York. Lots of big business there. When I moved to Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, at the time, there were no big businesses in Florida. So I couldn't have any customers in Florida. They were all in New York. They were all in London. They were all in Dubai. They were all in Australia. So keep that in the back of your mind. But yes, lots and lots of opportunities for remote cloud architects. But I just wanted to put the context around it for you.
And I did a quick answer on this one in the chat box, but we can talk about it for a minute. Edmund asked, is database cloud security? Is database cloud architect a specialty?
A database architect is a specialty, but a cloud database architect is not a specialty. And here's the reason why. It's the same databases on the cloud and off the cloud, whether it be Microsoft SQL, Postgres, Oracle's database, MariaDB or something like that, it's going to be the same database. So the answer is being a database architect, yes, but it's not going to be a cloud architect then. It's just going to be a database architect and it'll have nothing to do with the cloud. It doesn't matter to you as a database architect. They don't think of the servers or the storage that it relies on for the most part. They think about the applications and the data and the way it's going to need to be structured and ETL tools and mapping and reduction functions. So if you want to just do database stuff, it's the same on the cloud and off the cloud. There's not much of a difference.
But it is something, if somebody wanted to specialize like they do as a security architect or a networking architect, they could transfer. Because I'm thinking like a Praveen here or someone that
That's what I was thinking.
what would be the specialty might be a big data cloud architect.
Yeah, but a big data and a database are two different things. A database is one place where you store your data. The
Right.
big data cloud architect is working at all the data to determine, collecting it from click streams, collecting it from IoT devices, collecting it from transactions, collecting it from all your systems and merging them together and then figuring out how to massage the data, catalog it. So that's different. So database.
But that would be the specialty in that area of data.
It'd be a big data architect.
It would be a big data architect. Gotcha.
But database is just a tool. It's kind of like being a Google Chrome architect.
Betty asked for a cloud security architect. What search do you recommend to get?
Okay,
Actually,
so
got
Betty,
an article coming out pretty soon that'll give an answer to this, but I'll let Mike answer.
So Betty, as long as you understand that the certifications are only branding, that they're not where you're going to get your training, I would recommend either one. Doesn't matter which one, but either one, either the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional or the Azure Solutions Architect Expert. Just pick which cloud provider you prefer. Doesn't matter. Microsoft's probably doing more in the security space than AWS is, so the Microsoft one might be a little better right now. Microsoft is the #1 security player in the world in terms of dollar volume, so that might be something else to consider. And then I would do the CISSP. Now, the reason I would do the CISSP is architecture is about writing the security policies, determining what kind of firewalls you use, determining what kind of training the people are going to need, whether it be anti-social engineering, anti-phishing, anti-malware. It's looking at encryption strategies, for example. It's looking about how you would design the demilitarized zones, what kind of identity and access management. And the CISSP teaches you not how to configure those things, which is why engineers hate it. It teaches you what they do and how you would put the pieces and parts together to improve a business's security. So the CISSP is the closest we'll ever get to a security architecture certification training. All the rest of them are more about stuff. So those would be the two that I would do. Certifications that I wouldn't ever do is I wouldn't do a CompTIA anything. So don't do a CompTIA Security Plus. Take it off of your list. I also wouldn't do the AWS Security Specialty one because it's nothing in comparison to the CISSP. Could you do the two together? Yeah, I guess you could. But where do you want to spend your training time? On certifications versus your business acumen? That's up to you. But I would say the CISSP, which is what I always recommend, and one of those two big cloud or professional level certifications.
All right. So right now, this is the last question. So if you've got any questions, put them in the chat box. We don't always do an evening Q&A session, so take advantage of it. Sammy says, when you say what they teach is irrelevant, e.g. AWS, S3, RDS, virtual machine, etc., what would you say are used out there, and are they similar to operate, configure? If not, can you tell us a place where we can learn?
Yeah, you can learn from us. We will teach you this. But here's what I mean. We use virtual machines, not EC2 instances, everywhere. The virtual machine that VMware invented in 1999, and the one that Citrix Zen uses, for example, and the Linux KVM virtual machine, and the Linux QVMU virtual machine, and the AWS virtual machine, the Azure virtual machine, the Oracle virtual machine, the Alibaba virtual machine, the Dell Cloud virtual machine, and the Google Cloud virtual machine are all identical. What's different is their name. And you need to understand the virtual machine architecture, what's going on processor core-wise, what's going on DRAM-wise, what's going on networking and disk performance-wise to design an architecture. The stupid name that somebody names it, whether it's Compute Engine Instance or EC2, is irrelevant. You need to know how to architect them, not how to configure them, because we don't do that as architects. We don't touch it. We don't log into the management console or use the CLI. That's not our job. Conversely, you will need to know when to use a relational database versus a NoSQL database versus a data warehouse. You will need to know that. And guess what? You can't use DynamoDB. You can't use Amazon Aurora. You can't use Google Cloud Bigtable, because the second you do, you lock your customer into a single cloud. Now you're going to have two different databases from two companies that don't speak the same language. It doesn't work. So all that stuff that they're trying to push you to learn and your what do you call it, your certification, you can't use in 98% of your customers, because 98% of your customers use more than one cloud. So instead of learning and wasting your time on DynamoDB or Amazon Aurora or Elastic Compute Service that you can't use, you should learn how the tech works. Because if you don't know how the tech works, you can't do it. And here's the issue. If you're an architect, you won't be operating or configuring anything. It's all irrelevant to configuration knowledge for you, because we're not allowed to touch the tech. So that's why for architects, since we don't configure them, and a certification is the proprietary name of something and how to configure it, and we got to go design something, it just doesn't work. It would be like me teaching you how to drive this car. This car has an elastic vector changer. Now, I'm going to teach you another certification for another one, and they got something in there, which is a rotational device. And you got somebody else that's got a round, circular, angular mover. Now, would you know what it is? No. Now, if I told you, hey, this is a steering wheel, turn it to the right, and you're going to go to the right, turn it to the left, and you're going to go to the left, and it's going to work on every cloud, that would be valid, but they don't teach you that. So what you can do is you can learn all the underlying technology, which is exactly what we teach our customers. Every business has object storage, and they have for the last 30 years. It's not new. And how you're going to migrate it from the data center, their storage area network, to the cloud storage area network if you don't understand storage area networks, which again, they don't talk on certifications. So what they're basically teaching you is how to order pizza from Domino's Pizza versus how would you design the perfect pizza. Now, I'm Greek, right? And most of my Greek family members own pizza places. So I know the secret is first in the dough. And then if the dough's not right, your customers don't like your pizza. But it's also about your sauce, right? And you can't just shove any tomato sauce in there. You need the right herbs and spices. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Now, if you put cheddar cheese on a pizza, your customer is going to go, ew. And you need to know which cheeses are going to actually function in there to do it right. And you need the right oven with the right temperature. So instead of learning how to order pizza, which is what they're teaching you, I'd rather teach you how to design the perfect pizza. And that's the difference between architecture and engineering. The architecture is how do you put the menu together. The engineering is how do you cook the pizza. Totally great job, both important, but they're different jobs. And that's why we say that you can't. So in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, you can learn it. Or you can go to the manufacturers that make all this equipment. And you can learn all about server virtualization from all the companies that I told you and read it all. You can learn all about BGP, read all the books on BGP, but that level is the level of depth that you need, not what's this surface level stuff in certification. Alonzo or Chris, you want to add to that?
I think you covered it pretty good.
You shut it down. It's like the shutdown interview situation. It's like, what can you say behind that?
All right, Angelo.
Angelo's always got the best questions. Angelo was an application architect. He's now an enterprise architect, and he's someone that I have the most incredible amount of respect for. And
I like this question.
And we'll all provide our perspective. As an architect, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? And which situations would you use each? I will use each all the time. But here's the difference. Angelo, if you and I decided to sit down together and spend 2 weeks together, I could make you know BGP at a level that's better than 99% of the network engineers that are out there. With your level of intelligence, ability to learn, and my love of BGP and the amount of it I've worked with, in 2 weeks, I could make you better than 99% of the network engineers out there. and you would know exactly what to do, what to tune, how to tune it. You'd be that great. The difference would be I'd know when something's going to break without even knowing why I'd know it to break based upon wisdom. So let me give you a little more on that. When I first graduated school, I paid my way through the university by being a paramedic. So I'd seen a lot of sick people. And when I just got done, I was a nurse practitioner. I was another nurse practitioner, and she was mentoring me. So we had the same education, but she just went to school and graduated. She told me we were going to get a patient up and weigh them because they had CHF, and if we didn't know their weight, they could die. And she was right. I looked at her and said, no, we can't stand this patient up. And she said, Mike, we have to. And I said, if we stand the patient up, their heart's going to stop. And she says, we have to stand them up. And I said, I'm telling you, it's not safe. She said, I'm your mentor. You just graduated. You don't know anything yet. I said, okay. She stands them up, and the person's heart stops, and they fall straight on the ground. Thankfully, I caught them because I knew it was going to happen because I looked they had on their face. She said to me later, Tracy says to me, Mike, how did you know that was going to happen? I said, look, I've seen people that were in this level of distress every day for the last 8 years. I didn't know what was wrong with him, but I knew he wasn't stable to stand. Now you'll remember the look of someone that's 2 inches away from dying, and you won't ask him to stand up next time. Restart his heart. It was no big deal, but that was the key because she never saw it before. So that's the wisdom. The wisdom is when you've experienced all these things so much that your gut instinct starts to tell you to do this. So Angela, with your level of background, what I would say is, do your things based upon data. Like Chris is the data guy. He does stuff based on data because your data should drive 99% of your decisions. And when your gut is screaming, ignore the data, something's bothering you, ignore the data. And that's your gut, that's your wisdom. And the other 99% of your time, you use your knowledge or your data. But you guys are both experts in different things as well, so I'd love your perspective.
I always like to keep it the same example when it's applicable to architecture. Case in point, Angelo, I've spoken with you, diverse, intelligent, capable, confident, a lot of great things. And you understand with keeping bad actors out, we understand that the knowledge is we use a firewall. The wisdom is that cloud service providers who create this one hitter quitter scenario that one size fits all to keep bad actors out, man in the middle attacks, SQL injection, port scanning, DDoS, and so forth. But you understand that the wisdom is required that you need multiple layers of firewalls from different clouds, from those different providers. It's not enough to have AWS. It's not going to be sufficient. Whereas you can use a layer of Checkpoint, then a layer of Fortinet. If you want to get aggressive, throw in Palo Alto and Cisco on those multi-layers to create that understanding that we know through bad actors, through a lot of negative scenarios of malware, ransomware, that it's not enough. So the determination of knowledge applied versus the wisdom is how you can exercise that here.
Yeah. So I'll keep mine pretty simple. Knowledge is what you know, and wisdom is how to use what you know.
Mm-hmm.
You may know the answer. The wisdom is, do you tell the person that they're wrong? That's
Ergo the misses.
right, exactly. The wisdom is knowing how to. Yeah. The wisdom is knowing how to use the knowledge that you have.
Mm-hmm.
The wisdom is also how to recognize when you don't have the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference to me. That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Or we can try this. You know the answer, but arguing with someone who's not knowledgeable, but the stubbornness supersedes the intelligence, you're going to acquiesce and say, okay, you're right, just to get out of the useless and non-productive argument. So that is the determinant between knowledge and versus wisdom.
Exactly. All right. James T says, follow up to CCNA training. I saw CCNA security. Would you share your thoughts and opinions? Now, James T, you were the one that asked because you were given the free option for CCNA training. So, okay.
Yeah, so James, even though Cisco makes an incredible number of exceptional firewalls, when you think security, you think Palo Alto, you think Fortinet, you think Checkpoint. Even though Cisco is a huge market leader there. So the problem is when you do a CCNA security, it's not going to impress anybody enough to want to bring you in for an interview because everybody thinks of Cisco as a networking company. Look, Cisco's a tech company, not a networking company in today's world. But a CISSP looks good for security. A CCNA security just doesn't look good for security. A CCNA shows networking knowledge, which would actually be valid for security because, even though it still wouldn't be my primary recommendation, but if you don't understand IP packets, you can't set up a firewall rule. If you don't understand like VLANs, your networking your security isn't going to be as good. If you don't understand QoS capabilities on the network side, you won't have the level of security, which is why you can do, if you don't understand rate limiting and things like this and MAC address authentication, you won't understand why the data center is more secure than the cloud. And that's why to the programmers, the cloud feels more secure. To the true network architects, they realize why the network is actually more secure than the cloud if you design it and build it right. So there's nothing wrong with the CCNA security, but the CCNA would probably be a better option for you if you're going to go for tech training. Because I think the networking benefit you would get would be better than the brand recognition you're going to get from the Cisco CCNA security to help your security career.
All right. So I think we've got one last question there in the chat box, and then we'll be wrapping it up. Andrew says, beginner question, Linux plus Python plus AWS. What else do I need to land and be prepared for my first cloud engineer job? Thank you all for your time.
So you're going to need to know networking first, data center technology second, and then Linux, and then Python, and then Bash shell scripting in Linux, AWS, and you're also going to need to know Terraform for a cloud engineer. That's a pretty solid knowledge base for a cloud engineer, but you're going to need to know these depth. Like the AWS certified solution architect professional is not going to be enough. For an engineering role, you're going to need to get deep. You're going to have to really read through the AWS documentation. And really, for an engineer, it's all about getting on the command line and building things, as well as in Terraform. Architects, it's all about designing. We don't touch the technology. So doing these projects for an architect does not help us. But for a cloud engineer, yes. Make sure you understand the network and then understand the data center. Because if not, you won't understand what you're working with under the hood. And if you don't understand what's going on, you really can't work with it. And then Linux, and then Bash shell scripting, which is Linux, and then Python, and then Terraform, and then AWS, and you should be good to go as a cloud engineer.
All right. Well, those are all the questions that we've got. I want to thank everybody for joining. I really enjoyed this opportunity to do a question and answer session at night. Great questions from everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Alonzo and Mike close out, but I do want to remind everybody that that we do have our How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. That's up there. You can see the banner up there. Tyrone, if you could put the link there in the chat box as well. That will be this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can learn exactly how we do our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, how we make cloud architects. We're going to share all of that with you, and that's a free opportunity for you. That will be this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now, next Tuesday night, during this time slot, next Tuesday night, we're going to have our Cloud Architect Challenge. So you'll have the opportunity to see if you have what it takes to do the job of a cloud architect. Mike's going to give you a business case. You're going to have to solve it. You're going to have to create a solution. You're you're going to have to create the architecture. So if you want to see what you've got, if you've got what it takes, make sure to register for that Cloud Architect Challenge next week. And then also, do what?
I said it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, it is.
Enjoy that.
It's been a very long time since we've done one of these, so I'm looking forward to it. Also, I want to put I just want to put a link, a shameless plug for our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. I'm going to put the link here in the chat box so that you can learn more about our program. So check that out, and I hope that we can help you, and I hope that you got some benefit from the questions that we answered. So, any last words from the two of you?
Why don't you go first, Alonzo?
Hey, as usual, it's not only is it's we hope everything is informational for everyone here, but it's always good to see from our perspective what people's thoughts are, how we can help and engage. So I've learned a lot, as well as these gentlemen as well. So please continue to come to our webinars, come and ask your questions so that we can help you get to the career that you really want to have for your life. What about you, Mike?
And I just want to thank you all for being here. You know, we do these for a couple of reasons. The real key is I want to know that you get to your goal as fast as possible. See, in the last 25 years in tech, I've seen all the mistakes that other people made, and I've gained the wisdom to coach you how to not make those mistakes. I thankfully didn't make many mistakes. And the reason I didn't is early in my career, I asked the most successful people I could find in tech, what are your secrets? What should I do? And then I paid for some executive coaches to coach me through it so I didn't make those mistakes. So that's why we're here, to make sure that you don't have to make those mistakes, so that 2 years from now, you're where the rest of your peers are in 15 years to try to figure it out on their own. Because some people learn by making mistakes. The most successful people learn by asking others how not to make the mistakes and getting ahead. That's why every CEO has a board. That's why they have a leadership team and they listen to what their leadership team tells them. So that's why we do these things, because I want you to have a great career. I also want you to know that any of you can do anything you want. And I know you'll hear people tell you you can't. When I decided I was going to become a network engineer, I was told you can't. You got to do help desk for 3 years, and then you got to become a network admin for a few years. And my first job wasn't even a network engineer. It was a senior engineer. And literally speaking, within 6 months in that role, I was the lead architect at the world's largest internet service provider in our organization. And that's the key, is you can do it too, as long as you know what you want, you get the right professional development, you follow a plan, and you execute on that plan. So believe in yourself. You go on an interview, believe in yourself. You can do it. I promise you, you can. Each day, try to get 1% better than the previous day. Focus on being better in some way, in every way. Maybe you're working on your health and your fitness and your architecture career all at the same time. Good. Please, just try to get better in some way every day. Each day, little incremental things. It adds up to a lot in the long term. I want to thank you all for being here. It's been an honor and a privilege to speak to you and come to you and be able to communicate with you guys every week. Please join us on Thursday on the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And if you've been doing hands-on projects for the last 2 years and you want to get a Cloud Architect job, come and take our Cloud Architect Challenge and see whether those projects really got you to the ability to design systems. And if not, you'll know exactly what you need to learn. In either case, it'll be a good learning experience for you. I promise you'll learn something by the time it's done. And please check out the bottom of these videos, okay? We wrote a new BGP document for you today, an interviewing document for you, a how to change careers document, because I want you all to have the best life. So thank you so much. And it was wonderful seeing you here tonight.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
I was muted. Good night, everybody.